may not know me, but I've been where you have. I have never met you, but we've traveled the same path. We are not related, but we know the same granny. My name is Matt. This is not the first you've heard from me. Do you think that those warnings wrote themselves? Do you think that those means of escape appeared by accident? Did you really think that you were the first one to go through what you did? You weren't. I was afraid it would happen, that I wouldn't be the last one. She never beat it out of me. The memory is still clear as day. I was driving through some woods one night when suddenly my front tire flew off into the woods. To this day, I don't know how I got back control of the car to stop it safely, nor do I know why the wheel came off to begin with. I couldn't help but think it was sabotage. I looked at the car and couldn't find any reason why it would happen, so I went off to look for the tire, but I didn't make it far. I didn't know where I was or what I was doing, and Granny knew it. It wasn't long before I could barely drag my half-dead carcass across the floor in her house. Only my sheer will to live gave me the strength to hoist myself up onto a roof to possibly send an SOS to someone above. I also wrote a note of the things I did to give me a shot at escaping, because I knew I was only Granny's first victim, but not her last. To this day, I have no idea how, but I was able to knock Granny out with a tranquilizer long enough to open the last locks on the front door, and on my way out, I shot her with my gun so she would be gone forever, or so I thought. As I began to limp through the woods, breathing the air of freedom and tasting the sweet victory, thinking that it was the end, Granny came back for me. I tried to get out of bed like before, but she decided that wasn't an option. I couldn't be contained at her house, and she was not strong enough to hold me in her house alone. So she threw my body in her car and took me to Grandpa's house. To me, it seemed that he had an obstacle on every side to keep me from escaping. A swamp creature down below, a spider baby in the backyard, and a high-voltage cage on the front door where they could watch me struggle to get out, all on a security camera. The only way out was up, and that was where I went. But I didn't want them coming after me, so I created a series of puzzles and obstacles to keep them from getting to the helicopter I repaired. I was the one who took a picture and chopped it in three and scattered it around the house. I was the one who made a target range that couldn't be hit by bat or crowbar, but only by the force of a gun. And I was the one who installed the trapdoor that could only be bypassed by a fuse I hid in a random place. That was me. Oh, you solved all those puzzles? Well, there's a puzzle I haven't solved yet, but this one happened more recently. Why did Granny want a round 3? If I were to be completely honest, I just wanted to forget it all the terrible things that happened to me, and just move on with my life. So I got a job as a nighttime package delivery driver. I remember it all so clearly. It was a clear, cool night, and there was a full moon. It was my last delivery of the night, and I was ready to go home. I drove to the address that was on the box, and oddly enough, there was no name on the shipping label. The box itself was so poorly packaged that it wasn't even taped. Curiously, I opened the box to see what was inside. I mean, since there was no tape, nobody would know that I looked in it, right? Mysteriously, there was only a lockpick inside. Who would put such a small lockpick in such a big box? I asked myself. The instructions asked me to leave it up on the front porch. I opened the old rusty gate, only to find that I had to cross a moat. There was a security camera that looked far too old to possibly function, yet I still felt deep down that I was being watched. Immediately after I crossed, the drawbridge was pulled back up. There was no turning back at this point. As I walked slowly up the yard, I couldn't help but feeling a strange, creepy vibe of deja vu. I'd made it up to the front step, onto the porch, and was about to knock on the door when I heard a noise behind me. I turned quickly to see my worst nightmare come true. With no place to turn, I received a bullet to the leg and fell, hitting my head and blacking out. When I woke up, I pretty well knew what to expect, except this time I was locked in jail. I thought there might not be any escape this time, but then I saw my one saving grace, the lockpick. Granny or Grandpa must have dropped it when they dragged me into the basement. I could barely reach it through the bars, but I finally got a hold of it and went to work. Thankfully, these were old locks, and it didn't take me long to get through. Eventually, I found my way outside and tried to cross the moat, only to introduce myself to Granny and Grandpa's new pet, the gator. I thought he was going to eat me, and that was it. But Granny saw it happen and dragged me back to the cellar again. Only this time, I had the lockpick in my pocket, and also I noticed something that I did not before. There was a tunnel that led down to a train station. I went down and found an abandoned subway train. But that ticket robot would not open the doors without my ticket. But I couldn't worry about that now, though. I survived the gator, but I was weak. I found a coconut, but I couldn't find any knives in the kitchen to open it with. Then I went out into the yard and found a horrifying memory that I had never been more glad to see in my life. It was the guillotine. And when I chopped open the coconut, there was a coin inside which I would later use to buy my train ticket out of there. Since I pretty much knew the drill, I just followed my instincts. I looked for things around the house that I needed to escape. Now, as you might expect, the robot was fine with me once I gave him my train ticket. All I needed to do was find an electrical switch for the fuse box, a train key to make it start, and an accelerator to get enough speed to plow out of there. I found all three with no issues and was able to brake the train through that gate with no issues. I traveled through the dark tunnel for a few thousand feet, not very far, and then it connected to my city's subway train track line. I stopped at the next train station and immediately ran up the stairs to the street to find a policeman. But when we came back down 25 minutes later, that train car was gone. We looked down the tunnel that I came from and saw that the gates were closed again and the train was back in its place. They ended up sending the SWAT team to the address of the house, but Granny, Grandpa, and Slendrina were nowhere to be found. I have told you everything now. Those three are still out on the loose. Granny has, over the years, found a way to hunt me down, and I doubt she's finished. You can run, but you can't hide. She's done it before, and she will do it again. And just know that she is experienced enough to torture you, because even though you are not the last person she does this to, you are not Granny's first victim.